Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. And I am coming solo today. I feel like it's been a minute. It's been a while since I've recorded just because July was a busy month for me. So I had kind of batched some content. So it has been a while since I've actually recorded myself talking. So here I am. And really, it's just a short episode today because I wanted to talk about kind of the connection between mineral imbalances and gut health. I talk a lot about minerals and I've talked a lot about gut health. And I think that this connection between the two is really important and kind of this two-way street that we don't think about, because the thing here with kind of this connection with minerals and your gut health is that your minerals are affecting your gut health, but then your gut health is also affecting your minerals because it's affecting bioaccessibility, bioavailability, how your body's able to use them. So it really, they do have to work together. I was trying to think of a fancy word to say there, but they really do have to work together. And so I want to run through kind of a list of some really important nutrients for your gut health. And I'm going to mention some vitamins too. This mostly minerals is because that's kind of what my focus, but there are some vitamins, just, kind of micronutrients that we want to look at. So there are multiple studies that talk about kind of the association between like micronutrient availability, and that's like minerals and micronutrients, right? And kind of the microbial composition, like the microbes in your gut, your microbiome. And there's a lot of them in the past, there's been a lot of animal studies here, but now more recent research is studying humans because, as we know, we are not the same as mice or pigs or rats or the other things that we study. And let me say this, I want to say a disclaimer here, as I saw this the other day, and this is going down a wormhole, but I feel like I need to say this. There's a really very popular kind of health influencer on Instagram, and she posted something the other day, and her posts have honestly kind of been a little triggering for me lately because I just think she kind of does some fear mongering, and she posts some things without context, and people are like, oh yeah, and they jump on the bandwagon. But then when you read, like, she posts scientific studies and stuff, but then when you really read it, you're like, well, wait a minute, this actually doesn't say what you're saying that it says. So I want to say this because a lot of studies out there where people are using this as, to back up their claims to not eat this or to eat this instead of that kind of thing. There are studies that have only been done on animals. And a lot of times it's mice because that's the easiest thing to study. And a lot of their parts are similar to animals, actually not as similar as pigs. And so a lot of studies that are done on pigs are more closely, like the results are going to be more closely linked to humans. But anyway, that being said, and we're not the same. I mean, while a lot of us might be, genetically similar, we're still not the same. Like, it's still not the same as studying a human being. Like, we cannot say that the same thing that happens on mice is going to happen on humans. We can say there can be similarities and it's possible, but you can't make these very strict findings and use it as, this is what it is across the board, because it's not true. And so the thing that she was claiming was about a study, and it was a study on mice, but what she didn't say in her post, and if you read this study, this is what it said, the study was on mice who already had a compromised liver and bile acid issues. And so the things she was talking about, these specific things that are found in food, these kind of I don't even want to say synthetic, because she used the word synthetic, and I'm like, well, that's not true either, because it does come, it's been manufactured, but it's not synthetic. It is still made from food. These fibers that are put in things like inulin fiber and some other fibers that are added to things for things to have fiber in them. She was saying how terrible they were, based on this study, but the study was done on mice, first of all, and it was done on mice that already had compromised liver and bile acid issues. So yeah, it's going to show, so my point is, you really have to look at these because the other, and I've seen this happen time and time again. There's actually a guy I follow on Instagram. I've copied some of his stuff before. I don't feel the need to call him out at this point, but I like him because he calls people out on this. And he's like, okay, you can't cherry pick these things, right? You can't just cherry pick the parts of the studies you want to talk about and not talk about the whole study because the claims you're making aren't really backed up by this whole study. So I went down this rabbit hole here because I think it's important to understand and to just be informed when you're looking at, whether it's influencers or doctors or, functional practitioners, whatever, whoever's talking about things, you're talking about studies, you really have to, you can't take it at face value. You have to either first take it with a grain of salt and be like, okay, it could be true, maybe not, or look at the study yourself and read between the lines and really see what the study is studying, right? To see, did they study humans? Was it a small sample size? Was it a large? Because that's the other thing. There's been these other and I'm talking like big name health influencers, y'all. Like these couple guys have like millions of followers on Instagram making these claims, but they cherry pick parts of these studies where it's like, okay, this one study that they're using to back up their claim was a study of like 25 people. One study of 25 people. Like, okay, yeah, we can get some data there, but now you can't make generic statements on stuff because you did a study on 25 people. Like, come on. So that's my rabbit hole for this episode. But I just want y'all to be informed. And, that's kind of part of my, you know, my one of my values really that I bring into my business and in my practice is people being informed and educated and well informed and educated so they can make empowered decisions. And when we're just you listening to this, not everything you believe online is accurate. So it's kind of one of those things too, where when you're looking at people making claims and just because they're making claims using scientific studies, you sometimes still have to do your own research on things. So just be mindful of that. And I want to say that because my point was with these studies that I'm talking about mineral balance and gut health, there are actually quite a few studies now on humans and the human microbiome, because for a while it was just animal studies. And they're like, oh yeah, there's an association between the micronutrient availability and your microbiome, right? The microbial composition in your gut because we did these animal studies. But now we're seeing that there is actually evidence in human research as well. And so basically these studies are showing that the microbiome, your things, everything that's in your microbiome. So this is, the good bacteria, the bad bacteria, the enzymes, all these things that it is affecting your bioaccessibility and bioavailability of these trace elements and trace minerals, right? Meaning your gut microbiome is affecting how available it is for your body to use and how accessible it is. And it's affecting the levels, your mineral levels in your body, right? So I want to list out a few of these that I find are really important. And, food is always first. So I'll say that food is always first. And then if you need a supplement, then supplement. And really, as much as Western medicine wants to say that supplements are useless or they just make for expensive pee, the fact remains, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, that our food just isn't what it used to be. The nutrients in our food, and this actually has been scientifically, you can read multiple scientific studies that have measured nutrient density like over the years and kind of kept track of that the food back in the 1950s had anywhere from like 40 to 50% more nutritional value than it does now. And that's food like grown in the United States. And this, if you go back at the very beginning of my podcast, one of the first, probably one of the first 20 episodes, I talked there's an episode about regenerative farming. And I would say go back and listen to that if you want to know why our food doesn't have as many nutrients, because he talks about that and what regenerative farming is and how it's helping. But basically our conventional farming methods are just stripping the land of the nutrients. So our food just doesn't have as many nutrients. Not to mention, we're not all going to the farmer's market to get our food every week. Most of us aren't. Some of us are. And if you have that option, congrats to you. Not everybody has that option, and it's not convenient for everybody where everybody lives. And we're not all growing our food, right? So if you're able to grow your food, if you're able to go to the farmer's market, then yeah, you're going to have access to a lot more nutritionally dense food. But if not, then we're getting it from the supermarket, the grocery store, where it's been shipped and it's been on a truck for a week, and then it sits in the grocery store for another week. And, the longer it sits there, the more it's losing its nutritional value. So when I read off these, I'm going to talk about, I do think that everybody should be taking a good multi-mineral, multivitamin supplement just as insurance. That's all it is. I'm not saying, and I think this is where kind of the debate goes, where doctors are like, oh, you're just, peeing out everything. I mean, yeah, you're going to pee out some of it because when your body doesn't need it, you're going to pee it out. But it's not like I'm telling you to go take this stuff in replacing your food. I'm asking you to, eat a wholesome, healthful diet of whole foods. And then this is just insurance. It's just filling in the gaps. It's not in place of it, of course, unless you're, totally vegan and you need to fill in, you have more gaps to fill in, right? There are some things that you want to get that you weren't getting from food. But other than that, it's just insurance. We're just filling in the gaps. And it's really, I also think that there's this just widely underestimated piece of how minerals affect your gut and how your gut is affecting your minerals and your ability to absorb your minerals. And there are lots of studies that I've read just in different books and different studies studying that I've done about how different, there's irritable bowel diseases that are affecting your body's ability to hold on to certain minerals for that reason. And I'm going to talk about leaky gut when I'm going through this list here, but there are a lot of inflammatory bowel diseases and irritable bowel diseases, right? All of these things that can be traced to low levels of certain vitamins and minerals, and leaky gut as well. There's a lot of studies on leaky gut and kind of the minerals involved in that. So you can't deny the fact that we can see this kind of what's the word I'm looking for? This really, I mean, it really is just a tight relationship between the two. I mean, they work together. So let me just run through these. I keep talking about it. Let me get to it. Here's the list. So I have, again, I want to hone in on the minerals, but there are some vitamins too, and some other micronutrients that I want to talk about. But I'm going to lump a few of these together. So first, I want to look at selenium. Selenium is really known as an antioxidant mineral. And so it really helps your body in helping with inflammation. So naturally, it's going to help, protect your gut just because it's protecting your body. But there are studies and reviews of this specific mineral that are showing that it actually does protect the lining of your gut and enhances your gut's response to inflammation. It really plays a critical role in gut health. It affects your gut flora. So it's the good and the bad gut bacteria. And because it helps kind of modify the inflammatory response in the gut, it can help, I don't want to say fight because that doesn't sound right, but I was going to say fight leaky gut, but it can help, I guess it can help heal leaky gut is what I want to say, because it is helping with inflammation, oxidative stress. And that's what leaky gut is. Just to give you a reminder, if this is the first time you've ever listened to me, if you've never heard me talk about leaky gut is basically our body's response to inflammation. And so the mucosal barrier in your gut, so that's your intestines, when there's a lot of inflammation, it basically like eats these little holes through it, literally causing leaks. And so it causes undigested food and proteins to leak out into your bloodstream where it's not supposed to be. And so it causes even more inflammation. So it's kind of just, if you think of just kind of like wear and tear on your intestinal wall, that's basically what's happening, what leaky gut is. And so selenium is a really good mineral to help with this. And I love talking about selenium because so many of us can be deficient in it, but it's really so easy to get. I was just talking about this to one of my clients the other day. And because you can get it in a multivitamin, but all you have to do is eat one Brazil nut a day, and you can go for two if you want. And that's all you need. You can get it from fish. Tuna and salmon are really good sources of it too. But the Brazil nut thing is so easy. I give my husband one. I just bring it to him when he's at work. I get my little jar out and bring here's your selenium for the day. So selenium is really an easy one to get from food, and it's really important to your gut health. The next one is zinc. Zinc is really important for producing digestive enzymes, and which can actually help reduce your risk of leaky gut. We want the enzymes to help break down the food. So again, we're kind of reducing that wear and tear on the intestinal lining. And there are actual studies, and a fairly new study that found that even a really mild or even a temporary zinc deficiency can back up the digestive system and reduce enzyme production and lead to an increased risk of leaky gut or intestinal permeability. So there is a really strong link between zinc deficiency and leaky gut. And we all know, or maybe you don't, but I think a lot of us now living through, the pandemic and all that, we were all hyper aware of like, what's going to help our immune system. And we know that zinc is really good for our immune system. And this is kind of another factor, right? We know that our gut holds 80% of our body's immune system. And so it's just another way that we're helping that part, but it's specifically for those digestive enzymes and helping reduce the risk of leaky gut. It's really important for your gut. Another mineral is magnesium. I talk about magnesium a lot, and we've had some episodes about magnesium, but we know that magnesium helps relax your muscles, that it's that relaxing mineral. It helps balance your blood sugar levels. It's able to help your body cope with stress, but just like kind of the superpower of selenium, and it can also help minimize inflammation in the gut. And so there actually are multiple studies studying magnesium and its link to leaky gut and how it can help basically just keep that healthy gut lining. And it also helps because it's that relaxing muscle. It helps with peristalsis, which is our body's natural like contractions in the bowels to help us poop. So healthy poops are always good, right? So now if you were taking magnesium citrate, this is going to be more like a laxative effect. And I've talked about the different forms of magnesium before. You want to, for a body to really absorb, because this is the other thing with supplementation of magnesium, your body's really only going to absorb like maybe 60% of that. And that's like on the high end. And it depends on which form you're getting. And I've seen multiple blog posts, and I'm going to say quote like health bloggers that may not have credentials that are talking about magnesium, and they're telling people to go get magnesium citrate. I'm like, you're just asking people to go like poop on themselves. Like, I don't understand why you're telling your body does not absorb magnesium citrate well at all, y'all. So if you want magnesium citrate, that's just because you want to poop. And I have given some of my clients who are constipated that option, like, let's try this for a little while and help you get things flowing, but don't take it on a regular basis. That's not, no. We want magnesium glycinate, magnesium bisglycinate. Those are going to be the most absorbable kind and the easiest on your gut. Either way, though, because it does help your muscles relax, it's that relaxing mineral. It's still going to help. It's not going to make you poop like a laxative, but it is going to help with digestion from that side of things. Next one, I'll talk about vitamin D, which is not a mineral, but it's still a micronutrient. It's a vitamin. So vitamin D, this one is interesting because it helps support digestion, it helps with immunity, it helps with calcium absorption. But there are studies that are linking vitamin D deficiency to inflammatory bowel disease. So these are things like Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, things like that. And so vitamin D supplementation is really showing a lot of benefits for treating symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease. Even if you haven't been completely diagnosed with one of those, but maybe you have IBS or maybe just symptoms of IBS and not have an actual diagnosis, which I mean, really and truly, y'all, IBS is a garbage diagnosis. It doesn't mean anything. Like, the doctors can say that because and that's what happened to me. I mean, I was diagnosed with that. I was told I had that when I was, I don't know, it's probably middle school. It's a garbage diagnosis. It's just like fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is another garbage diagnosis. These are things, these garbage diagnoses, these are things that the doctors have to give you when basically they're like, I've done the test I want to do on you. And I've exhausted all of my options here. And so I'm going to give you this diagnosis so that you'll go away or go to somebody else. And it's literally what it is. Fibromyalgia, I'm telling you, it's not a real thing. IBS, it's not a real thing. Like they haven't got to the root cause of what's going on. It's a real, and I'm not saying this to minimize symptoms, because if you have been diagnosed with either of those, yes, you have symptoms. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying this is not a diagnosis. That's not what's wrong with you. All right. There are deeper things at play. So that being said, vitamin D can be really supportive for things like IBS, inflammatory bowel disease. And now I will say this, a lot of the studies on the vitamin D and kind of the microbiome were done on mice. But I also know that there are a lot of vitamin D studies that have been shown to help support digestion and immunity and all those. So they do kind of balance out. So vitamin D really helps with healthy gut flora, right? Healthy gut bacteria. And because and really, I think that's kind of the power of why it's so important for your immunity, And I think we learned this too during COVID. And I think I talked about this when I did the calcium shell episode, about, how during COVID, everybody was like close to ODing on vitamin D because we're like immune system, vitamin D, everybody take your vitamin D. But then they're taking vitamin D with it by itself, and it's just, increasing your calcium in your body. And anyway, so if you're taking vitamin D, we want to make sure you're getting your magnesium. Vitamin D helps with calcium absorption, so you want to make sure you're taking all that together. So yeah, but vitamin D can be really helpful for the gut. Another one, I'm just going to kind of lump all of these together, but B vitamins, vitamin C, and iron. Iron is a mineral, but vitamin B and vitamin C and B vitamins obviously are not. But really, your digestive system kind of craves B vitamins to help your body create red blood cells, gain energy from food, especially B12. And vitamin B12 is something that our body has to make from the gut. We need what's called intrinsic factor, which is only created in the gut. So when we have gut issues, a lot of times B12 can become deficient. Even if we're getting it from food, it can be deficient because we need that intrinsic factor, which is made in the gut. And so in order for your body to create these healthy red blood cells, get energy from food, again, we need that from B12, you really have to have an optimally performing gut. Vitamin C is also helpful for the gut. Vitamin C and iron work together. Vitamin C helps with iron absorption, and your gut bacteria need iron to function effectively and can kind of help with healthy gut bacteria. Now, here's a caveat here I want to say, because iron is one of those things, like I would never recommend somebody getting on an iron supplement without getting testing and labs done first. Because now getting iron from food is one thing. Like we all need iron from food. And especially as women, if you're menstruating, like we need a lot because we bleed a lot. So, but the thing is, iron, when you get too much iron can also feed parasites. So when you get too much, like there is such a thing as too much. Some of these things, your body can, like, there's no such thing really as a magnesium overdose. There is such thing as a vitamin D overdose. You can do too much vitamin D and it'll make you sick. But a lot of these, it's like, no big deal. B vitamins, you're going to pee them out if your body doesn't need them. Iron is not one of those. Iron can be toxic to your body. And if you have a parasitic infection, you have parasites, it can actually feed the parasites. So you want to be mindful of that. But your body also needs it, right? Your gut actually needs it. So it's one of those where you really have to have this healthy balance. And I would never recommend taking an iron supplement unless I've done labs and testing. Getting it from food, yes, but like getting extra from a supplement, I would need to do labs. But point is, vitamin C and iron work together. So I want to make sure we're putting those, getting those things together. And then the B vitamins, we need the B vitamins to help our body be able to use things from food. And especially that B12 is going to be helpful. And again, kind of that bioavailability and bioaccessibility of the nutrients in your food. Next, I want to talk about omega-3s. Again, not a mineral, but it's still this micronutrient. So omega-3s are similar to selenium that I talked about earlier, kind of this antioxidant mineral, right? Omega-3s kind of have the same role. They are anti-inflammatory, and they really help support our body's normal anti-inflammatory response. They're good for cardiovascular health. And then there have been some studies that have evidence that show that it can help increase your good bacteria in your gut. And really, I think it's kind of like along the same lines of selenium, because it has these anti-inflammatory properties. It's just naturally helping our body's anti-inflammatory response, which means, helping those good bacteria to proliferate in the gut. So omega-3s can be really supportive. The last one I want to talk about is sodium. Sodium, which I've talked about in a whole episode, you can go back and listen to that. Sodium is important for the body. And if you want to hear like my soapbox talk on that, you can go back and listen to the sodium episode. But sodium is good for gut health. However, just like I talked about in the other episode, the sodium has to come from the right source, right? So I'm not talking about just eating a lot of really salty foods and downing ramen noodles every day to get your sodium. This is coming from good quality, unrefined sea salt. That being said, the key component of salt, which is chloride, is really key for digestion because this is a key component of stomach acid or hydrochloric acid, right? We need hydrochloric acid to break down our food in the body. And hydrochloric acid is critical in triggering enzymes that break down proteins and minerals in food. So your protein is basically what gets broken down in your stomach. Your stomach has a process that breaks down certain foods. And then when it gets down into your intestines, it has another process there. Other foods get broken down there. But your proteins have to get broken down in your stomach from hydrochloric acid. And so if you've ever eaten and you feel like, and especially if you've eaten like a high protein meal and you feel like your food is just sitting like a rock in your gut, you're like, oh, I just feel so heavy. Like it's just sitting there like a brick. A lot of times that's a good indication that you have low stomach acid. Like your stomach acid is not doing what it's supposed to do. Acid reflux, heartburn, all of those things, even though we think it's because we have too much stomach acid, it's actually the opposite. People that have things like that typically have low stomach acid. And a lot of times, I mean, really, I rarely say all the time, but this pretty much is guaranteed means that your sodium levels are off in your body. Now, it could mean that you're getting your sodium from the wrong sources. And so, your body's not able to utilize the sodium like it needs to because our sodium, all your cells have sodium and potassium pumps. So they're pumping in and out of your cells all the time. That's how we maintain fluid balance in and out of the cells. And it's, help carrying other things across the cell membrane. So when you're only getting your sodium from really salty foods or processed foods, and you're not getting that, right? It's not getting in and out of the cells like it's supposed to. It's just, and that's where I said in that other episode I did, you don't have a sodium intake problem. It's a sodium retention problem, right? You're retaining fluid and all that because your body can't push the fluids where it needs to go. So that being said, when you have this, you have the signs of low stomach acid, like when you feel like food sits heavy in your stomach, you've got heartburn, you've got reflux, you could even have like frequent burping. Gas and bloating is another big one. Gas and bloating is another indication that your body's not breaking down food. And I would say most of the time when I have my clients who one of their biggest complaints is bloating, their sodium levels are so off. So we need sodium. Sodium is critical for digestion. We need those minerals and the salt, like chloride, right? Especially, we need that. So when you don't have adequate hydrochloric acid, your body cannot receive that balance. It's like this snowball effect too, because if your body's not breaking it down, so if you have low hydrochloric acid, you have low stomach acid, your body's not able to break things down, which means that now your body's not getting the nutrients that are in your food. They're not getting that nutrition, right? And so now other bodily systems are going to suffer because it can't get the nutrients because your body hasn't broken down the food like it needs to, right? You see what I'm saying? So low stomach acid, and I will say this, to know if you have there's a lot, you can do like little tests to see if you have low stomach acid. But if you have chronic things like hypothyroidism, hair loss, insomnia, SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, ulcers, adrenal fatigue, because that's just like zipping through your sodium stores. All of these things can be linked to low stomach acid production and typically means you need to balance out your sodium. So sodium is another big one. I just want to put that one in there. So I hope this helps explain some things and maybe strike some thoughts of maybe some holes that you could be looking at in your supplementation or in your diet if you're dealing with leaky gut. All of these would be helpful for you if you're dealing with leaky gut or you're healing from leaky gut. You have family members who are dealing with that. All these can be really helpful. So hopefully tied together some things on gut health and mineral balance and give you some things to think about. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's @TheHopePedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.